One would think that in a plan like this, that there should be some revenue coming in from people who are actually hopping on the bus rapid transit or the commuter rail. What role does actually user fees play in
You
this?
would think, but surprisingly, only 4% of the funding is supposed to come from user fees. Now, that's 4% of the total funding. But even if we just look at the operating cost and none of the capital, only about 20% of the operating funding will ever be expected to come from user fees.
Now, you have taken a look at this entire plan. You've analyzed it, looked at the costs. You've looked at ridership patterns and of the existing system and all that. And essentially, you've concluded that it's probably not a good fit. Tell us why.
There is just no evidence that people in Wake County really want to use these kinds of transit systems. So we see a demonstrated preference for cars, and that's because we're not super dense. If we were New York City or Washington, D.C., and we had a really, really dense core, then it might be different. But we're so spread out that people prefer to ride cars. They're more convenient. You can go from home to work and swing by and pick up the kids or get dinner or whatever on the way, in a way that you just can't with buses and trains. And people still like that in Wake County. So we see that that's where people are choosing to get around. We have an existing bus network that people don't use very much. It's used a little bit. I'm not suggesting we get rid of it, but there doesn't seem to be there's not heavy use of that. So there doesn't seem to be any demand for a lot more of it.
Why then a recommendation for such a plan?
Well, that's a question that I've asked a lot. It really looks like they're concerned about image, that this is what progressive, up-and-coming, trendy cities do, is they have all of this kind of public transportation. They talk a lot about building this whole system, and that if they build it, people will then use it. They'll change their travel patterns. But they don't offer any evidence that that's the case.